get the kind of feeling that the world is gonna end. That kind of crazy when the things you thought you knew were just pretend. Well, I can run, I can hide, turn the tide and push it somewhere else. Or I can scream, scream and shout, let it out, but I'm talking to myself. Now the smoke clears and the earth turns, but my heart burns. You played me all along. Now I'm broke down and I can't hide it. I'm blindsided, I guess I got it wrong. So I was thinking about the future and the things that we would do. I know it's stupid, but it didn't seem so stupid with you. Oh, I can run, I can hide, turn the tide and push it somewhere else. Or I can scream, scream and shout, let it out, but I'm talking to myself. Now the smoke clears and the earth turns, but my heart burns. You played me all along. Now I'm broke down and I can't hide it. I'm blindsided, I guess I got it wrong. And you won't even say you're sorry, you hurt me. And you don't care about the fallout, you're all out. Now the smoke clears and the earth turns, but my heart burns. You played me all along. Now I'm broke down and I can't hide it. I'm blindsided, I guess I got it wrong.
Hi, welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. You can ask any questions that you might have for me in the comments, or you can use hashtag QBATE on Twitter. That's Qbate, hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There are accountants and business experts on hand there 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated COVID-19 information site. You just go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit and click on the big Learn More button under the header Support for You and Your Business During COVID-19. So, hi, my name is Cameron Sharp. I'm a West End performer and a professional gigging singer. And I'm going to be talking to you today about my industry, the theatre industry, how it has been impacted, and how myself personally has had to change from what I was doing before all of this to finding new and innovative ways to connect with audiences and to use my skill set in obviously a time that none of us were expecting or have ever experienced before. So I'm going to start off with a little bit about myself, where I'm from, how I got into the industry. I'll keep that brief, and then eventually we'll get on to what I'm doing now and what I'm offering now, and to deal with this situation. So I grew up in the West Midlands in a little village in Staffordshire, and I'm only putting that information in for anyone who's trying to work out my accent right now. And I grew up there, did lots of amateur theatre, lots of gigging, had a rock band, real varied forms of singing, lots of different styles. Eventually moved away, moved to London, and went to Mount View Academy of Theatre Arts, which is a private drama school that specialises in training for loads of different skill sets within the theatre industry. There I did a BA Honours in musical theatre, and that brings us up to my professional career. So I'm now going to do that thing that all actors, if any of you know any actors, I'm sure, or any of you are, I'm sure you'll be able to empathise with this, but that all actors love to do, which is reel off my CV at you. So just a few examples of some things that I've done professionally. My first job was Rock of Ages, the musical, that was in the West End, and also a UK tour. I've also done lots of other shows, including Avenue Q, Jesus Christ Superstar, School of Rock in the West End. I was the original cast for that, did that for over 2 years. And then most recently, Beautiful, the Carole King musical. And I'll come back to that in a second. But throughout all of that, as an actor, we're constantly having to find multiple jobs that we can do alongside our main focus. Acting work is never stable, it's never guaranteed. Often we have gaps, we have sometimes long periods where we don't have a job, an acting job that we would like to be doing. So we find other things to earn money and to fill our time. So during those periods, I spend a lot of time gigging. I've performed with wedding bands, with function bands, by myself, also on cruise ships as a guest entertainer, which is where they fly you out to wherever the ship is in the world, and you join the ship for a week, and then you leave at the port at the end of that week and you're flown back, which is great. And I also run a recording business on the side, recording vocal reels, singing reels for performers who want a demo of how they sing and how they sound. And that's called Vocal Demos. It has a website, vocaldemos.co.uk. So all of these different things, they all inform, they make up my skill set as a performer. Obviously, everyone's is slightly different. And I've had to use those to find new things that I can do. So just before lockdown, I was, as I said earlier, in Beautiful, the Carole King musical, playing the part of Barry Mann. And this was a dream part of mine. It was a part that I'd always wanted to do at some point, and finally got to that place where I was playing a supporting lead role and on UK tour, which was amazing. Then obviously this happened and we were all closed. So we didn't find out that we were closed until we were in Cardiff and we did our Saturday night show. We left as normal to go to Sunderland, and then we're told on our day off, oh, actually don't go to Sunderland, we might not be on this week, and then ultimately that we weren't going to be on a tour, and the tour has now been cancelled, which is a fate that has befallen many actors, unfortunately, and many jobs, many tours. Obviously, the company doesn't exist anymore. It is gone, which means there is no furloughing. We're self-employed anyway, but on a contract. We're in a very weird grey area. So it's an unusual time. So during lockdown, I have been using this skill set to find ways to keep creative and also to maintain some form of income, as I say, with very little in the means of support from the schemes that are being offered. So the main thing that I've been doing are these virtual gigs. So they are live streamed concerts from my kitchen, and a break from the working day, or maybe leading into the weekend at the end of a Friday. You can contact me on at camsharp6 on Twitter or Instagram. Instagram, or you can go to my website, which is Cameron-Sharp. Sharp has no E on the end, by the way. It's Cameron-Sharp.com. And if you'd like to, you can contact me there if you'd like more information on these gigs. They're a really great thing to offer, like I say, just as a little break from working from home. Also, I mentioned the recording business earlier. I've also been recording from home, and this is a whole new sort of industry that's opened up since lockdown, which is, I already had a home recording setup, obviously, so I've been using that to record songs with composers that I might have had no contact with out before this happened. Those of you that joined the stream right at the beginning, you will have heard a song called Blindsided by Gus Gowland, who is a British composer. He reached out to me, I think via Twitter, and asked if we could collaborate on this song, and we did. And that was amazing. So the results you heard there were recorded in my house, and he recorded his, and then we put it together. As well as that, I mean, these classes range from acting through song or monologue performance, singing lesson style classes where students or anyone, adults, can come up and perform on their camera from their home, and I will give them feedback and work with them, and hopefully they come away with a bit more confidence. And it isn't just limited to actors. This can also apply to people working in small businesses if they like to work on their self-presentation, on their confidence, on their using their voice, speaking in front of crowds. It's a great skill set to have in a workplace. Just really mostly that self-confidence to take a breath and talk about what you know. So just to summarize that, I've spent lockdown, virtual gigs, recording from home, and teaching online. All three of these have now made up what is my whole new life. And whereas before I was standing on stage performing in front of 2,000 people a night, now I spend most of my day staring into a camera and performing to a set of individuals in completely separate locations. I am going to move on and take some questions now. The first question that we've got is Frederick from Twitter. There's a Twitter DM. Frederick asked, what do you miss about performing on stage? So many things. The biggest thing is the immediate feedback that you get from an audience. Obviously, with a session like this, you don't get that. And it's an unusual shift in mindset, I think, to perform. When I do the virtual gigs, everyone's muted because it'd be a nightmare sound-wise if they weren't. And you perform for 100 people, all in their separate homes, and a song finishes, and obviously there is no feedback. You have no idea how much people are enjoying it. You don't know whether people are connecting to certain material more than others. So usually you might tailor your set and be like, oh, that went down really well. Like a DJ at a wedding might kind of go, oh, they really like that one, so now I'll go down this route. And you can't do that. So everything has to be planned a little bit more. It's less spontaneous, I think. But also I really miss the other people on stage with you, because so much of acting is about the other actors. It's about feeding off everyone else and the energy that they have on stage. If it's a really great audience and everyone's G'd up and ready to go, then you really feed on that. And I think not having that when performing to a camera, but also just not in your daily life, is kind of a big shift to deal with. The next question is from Barbara from Facebook Messenger. She said, how do you teach online, and what are the obstacles not being able to see people in real life? So yeah, teaching online has been interesting for me, but it's also a really nice thing. I think people are quite comfortable in their own homes. So rather than them having the whole performance of sitting outside an audition room and waiting and getting more and more nervous and then coming in and performing for you and you working with them, or whether it's a normal class situation where everyone's watching each other and the little demons come up in your mind where you start going, oh, that person did really well, or the teacher seems to like that person, and we all have these anxieties that start to crop up. I've found that people, when they're in their own home, they're not comparing themselves to anyone. The situation might be a bit uncomfortable or a bit unique because they're performing to their laptop, but a lot of people are quite used to that now, especially teenagers and students, because of social media and TikTok and things like this, where people are quite used to singing to a camera. So they're sort of in their element, and it means that you can go embarrass yourself, do this, have a play, like enjoy things, and they know that no one else can see them. I think that's been really interesting. One little tip, actually, I meant to put in my opening gambit about using Zoom to perform or to do live concerts. There's a little thing that you can do. This is my tiny bit of teaching for the day. There's a little thing that you can do to your sound settings on Zoom. If you ever, it doesn't even need to be performance, just if you want to play music during a conference or anything like that. Zoom's microphone compresses the sound automatically to make it better for spoken voice. So it cuts out any background noise. I think the intention being, if you're in an office situation, you might need that background noise to be cut out. So Zoom compresses that sound, and then that means that if you play music and you sing along, it sounds horrible to everyone else, because the music is almost removed and your voice is squashed. So if you go into audio and video settings, I think it's in the advanced settings section, you can tick a box that says show enable original sound. You tick that, and then also turn off automatically adjust microphone, which changes your volume based on how loud you are. If you turn that off and you tick the little enable original sound, then when you're in the meeting, you can turn on your original sound in the top corner. And that means it just uses the microphone's it will play what the microphone is picking up. So what I do in my gigs is I plug a professional microphone, the mic I use for recording, into my laptop, and I also send the tracks straight into my laptop rather than through the microphone. And that means that people get a really good live sound at the other end, which is great. Thank you for that, Barbara. So next we have Hayden from Facebook Messenger. They said, what a nice thing to perform online. I've seen a live concert on Instagram which brought me so much joy. How has it been received from the virtual public, and can you still feel connected to the audience even though you perform from home and not on a stage? That's a great question, thank you. So I covered a little bit about connecting to the audience in the previous question. There is obviously a level of disconnect, but one thing I do like on Zoom is the gallery view. Means you can see everyone. If people leave their camera on, you can see everyone enjoying it in such varied settings. So one of the ones I did a couple of weeks ago, it was a really hot day. I think it was the Thursday just before the bank holiday weekend, and people were outside having barbecues with their kids, obviously just with their own family, and some people were inside in kind of much darker settings, just there, with their headphones on, enjoying it, maybe having a drink. And it's really interesting watching all these people that would normally be in one space doing the exact same thing, but in their own spaces. And then what was the other part of the question? They've been received really well by everyone so far. I think people need distractions at the moment, and entertainment is always about escaping. It's about letting your mind disappear, letting your mind vanish into a whole new world that you that you weren't in moments before the show started. Same with obviously watching a movie or anything. It's about just letting yourself be in their world for a bit. And even with a virtual concert, I think people get a level of that. They get to just have fun, zone out. I try to keep the gigs. I try to have a nice varied range of songs, lots of different genres, keep a lot of it quite up tempo, and I think people it's just nice to have a nice time. Lara from Twitter DM. I have a few questions. She says, how do you prepare for theatre? Do you like musicals personally? I heard a lot of huge West End stars don't actually love the music. Okay, so preparing for theatre, on the day of a performance, if that's what you mean, that there is so much that has to happen. We obviously do a lot of rehearsal and a lot of preparation so that the show is ready to go, and by the time it's in front of an audience, the show is almost second nature. You know it so well because it's been drilled and drilled and drilled. But as always, the big trick is, and the hardest skill potentially, is to make it still feel fresh. So we're constantly having to change small things and really engage with what we're saying at that moment with each actor, so that it doesn't just feel like you're watching a choreographed 2 hours of staging. But on the day, the preparation is really an all-day thing, and a lot of people, I think, underestimate that element of being an actor. I understand why. A lot of people go, well, it's great if you've got an evening show, you only work in the evening and you have all day off every day, which I understand is so different to most people's industries. But during the day, you are often, well, always, especially if the song, for me, especially if it's a part that is a hard sing. So say if you were, just to pick a generic example, say you were playing Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, it's a famously big show to sing, and your voice is such a delicate muscle. It's a tiny muscle. It's the size of a thumbnail of your vocal folds that produce all the sound, that the amount of things throughout the day that can impact that, you find that you have to make sure you wake up at a certain time. You have to drink tons of water hours before the show starts. You have to look after your voice during the day. You don't want to be going for brunch with a group of friends and talking for 2 hours and then trying to do a show. Is horrible. So a lot of actors end up having not much of a social life at all during the daytimes, and then performing, and then we'll maybe go out after the show, because it'll reset after sleep for the next day. And do I like musicals personally? I do. So I understand your point. There are elements definitely of musicals that not of all, of some musicals that you have just heard so much, because throughout training, throughout everything, you're constantly exposed to these songs, and some of the songs are done over and over again. So you end up being a bit sick of some of the music. But I think in general, musical theatre does actually cover such a range of styles. There are musicals that go from like 80s rock to like original rock music that's been written for the show, all the way through to your Les Mises, your Phantoms, and then obviously past that to old musicals like Oklahoma. And like it's such a massive range of music that I think every style is catered for somewhere within that spectrum. Derek from Twitter DM, he says, do you consider yourself an actor or a singer first? If you had to stop one, what would it be and why? It's a good question. So I definitely started as a singer more. I got into theatre because I love singing. And I love all, as I keep saying, I love all different genres. And the song that you heard right at the start is a contemporary musical theatre song, and that's in a musical theatre style. But I also love singing pop and rock and soul. The wedding gigs and stuff, it's a completely different vocal sound, but they're so much fun to do, and is arguably something that I'm better at, or at least as good at as the musical theatre style. So I'd say I'm a singer first, but definitely my acting has developed massively throughout drama school training, and then even more so since being a professional performer. Acting is so much about, the older I've got, and obviously that will continue this journey, but I've been working professionally for 6 years, is that right? 7 years now, and acting is so much about being comfortable and being relaxed enough to stop overthinking everything and to just let yourself feel things and do things naturally, and that develops. It's an ongoing thing. So I think if I had to stop one, I would probably stop the acting, because there are so many other elements of what I do to earn money and as a job that are singing focused, like gigging. Naomi from Twitter DM: have you been in a situation before where the production folded for other reasons? What did you do? I actually haven't been in one where the production has folded. Although I suppose technically, so have been in shows that have closed. So my very, very first job was Rock of Ages in the West End, and it had already been open for 2 years. Shows very often work on an open-ended billing, so they'll book for they'll book for however long the show is in demand for. So it's a renewed contract. The actors are usually contracted for a year, and then at the end of that year, you might be asked to renew that contract and to carry on for another year, but it can close at any moment. It's a very weird part of our job that I think contractually, usually they're allowed to give you 2 weeks notice to close at any time. So Rock of Ages closed about 2 months after I joined it, but I already knew that was coming because they'd already announced it. And then you're just unemployed again, and you go back to auditioning through your agent and hoping that you'll land your next job. And that's when all these side projects, gigging and anything else that you have set up as a side business, like my recording business, you have to fall back on them, or on an array of other jobs like promo work, temping work, teaching work, whatever else it is that you do alongside. Sarah from Twitter said, I'm a pretty shy person, but people have always told me I've got a good voice. How could I find the confidence to do this professionally? How would I know if I'm actually any good without going on X Factor? It's a good question. So I think confidence is obviously a big part of performing, but I think you gain confidence through knowing that you're doing something that you love, and also knowing that you're doing something that you are good at, and that's an objective thing. Being good at something is an objective thing. You'll always find people who are like, I love this singer, say Barbara Streisand. You're the most musical theatre person I could have picked. You'll always find someone who will be like, I love that person's voice, or I love Elvis's voice, or I love Ed Sheeran's voice. And there will always still be other people who hate their voices, or not hate, but dislike them as a singer. It's such an objective thing. So I think clearly people have told you that you do have a good voice. So objectively, there are at least some people who are impressed by your singing, and you can gain confidence from that. And I think the more you can pluck up the courage to do that in front of other people, the more confidence you gain. I think those two things are very much symbiotic. I would say, when you said how would I know if I'm actually any good without going on X Factor, obviously those competitions are a route that you can try, although I'd always warn people, having known a lot of people that have been involved in those shows or been on them, that they are very engineered. So be careful with those. But other ways to find out if you're any good: find a local singing teacher. There are singing teachers all over the country. Find a local singing teacher. Invest in yourself for just a few singing lessons, but make sure that you pick a singing teacher that is a really good quality. You're better off paying more money for someone who is brilliant if it's only going to be 3 or 4 lessons, just to see how you get on. And they'll be able to tell you what stage you're at, how well developed your instrument is, and what you need to work on as a singer. Singing is very, very technical. That isn't something to be scared of, but just like any other thing, if you're in the gym and you're lifting weights, you have to be doing everything properly, otherwise you'll injure yourself, and that's the same for singing. The next question. I think this might actually be the final question. So this is from JD on Facebook Messenger. Do you think you will continue with online gigs and teaching when this is over? I hope so. I really do. It's been such a great it's been a great opening and a great, what's the word that I want? I've managed to look into a whole world that I hadn't really known existed before, and maybe it didn't exist before. This is something that is new to everyone, and I think I definitely will continue. And as I say, if there is anyone out there who would like one of these gigs, then please reach out to me at camsharp6 or on my website cameron-sharp.com. Drop me a message and we can have a chat about what you might want and whether it would work. So I'm gonna wrap up my speaking at you now. Coming up on Ask the Expert is Johan Gori. He's on tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Johan is a top UK accountant who can offer the latest advice on the bounce back loan. So a reminder that if you need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There are accountants and business experts on hand there 24/7. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you have gleaned some information from the last half an hour. And if anyone has any other questions for me, you can drop me a message on social media or comment on these posts on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitter, and I'll try and get to see those and to respond to anything. Thank you, and goodbye.